Welcome to another dojo topic. Hey, have you ever found yourself having a conversation with yourself like, I've had enough spiritual or religious upbringing to know that there are some beliefs about certain things. So I'm having difficulty seeing how duality and non-duality kind of fits and how I could possibly be the infinite sovereign being and maybe just those questions bounce back and forth, or maybe you see yourself as, okay, I figured this out. So now how do I get to the next part? So it's always stepping back into the self rather than staying as infinite being. If so, that might be why you attracted this video today, because that's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about um, the theology of separation. So I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see what we talked about today. And I'm really excited because we had such an amazing conversation about this. But just a reminder before we begin, nothing shared here is meant to become a rule, belief, or teaching you must follow. You're always invited to take what resonates and release anything that doesn't, because your inner wisdom is the final authority. Last week, our topic was about that addiction to fixing what was never broken. We think like, oh, I need one more certificate, one more healing session, one more. So if you were not able to join us for the live conversation or you've not yet seen the video, I'll put a link to that video at the end of this video. But as I mentioned, today's topic, we're talking about the theology of separation and the belief that created the search for who we are, what we are. Traditionally, theology is the study of the nature of God, divinity, ultimate reality, and humanity's relationship to it. But in practice, theology often becomes the collection of beliefs we hold about how life works, why things happen, what causes suffering, what makes us worthy or unworthy, whether we are separate or connected, whether life is supportive or adversarial, what must happen before we can be at peace. And for the purpose of this conversation, I'm using the word theology broadly, not as a religious doctrine, but as the collection of beliefs we hold about how life works, what gives us worth, what causes suffering, and whether what we seek is separate from us. But before we can talk about separation, we have to talk about the stories that taught us we were separate. I know for myself as a child, I watched my father parent through the lens of his understanding of Scripture. Certain passages were interpreted to mean discipline, punishment, obedience, and correction. And whether those interpretations were right or wrong isn't the point. The point is that children don't just hear teachings, they experience them. And from those experiences, they begin forming beliefs about life itself. For me, religion wasn't simply something to believe in, it became something to fear, something to be angry about, something to question. Not because of theology itself, but because of how theology was experienced for me. And many of us carry similar stories. Perhaps religion taught you that you were flawed, that suffering was deserved, that love was conditional. Perhaps it taught you that someone, somewhere, was keeping score. Or perhaps the lessons didn't even come from religion at all, but from family, culture, education, or society. The source matters less than the result. A child learns that acceptance must be earned, approval must be earned, safety must be earned, love must be earned. And eventually, that same child becomes an adult searching for peace, happiness, abundance, purpose, healing, belonging, or fulfillment. But what if the search itself is built upon a single assumption? that assumption, and that assumption is something is missing. Many of us spend our lives searching for answers, for the meaning of life, for the next breakthrough, and for the feeling that we finally arrived. But what if the very impulse to seek arises from a deeper belief in separation? This topic is exploring the theology of separation and how it quietly fuels the experience of duality. This is your opportunity to investigate the belief that what you're searching for is somewhere else, hidden in a future achievement, a healed past, a spiritual experience, a relationship, a bank account, or a different version of yourself. What if the search didn't begin because something was missing? What if it began because we were taught that something was missing? As children, we don't simply learn from our parents. We often use what we're taught to believe what life really is. For many children, their understanding of God, source, the universe, or a higher power is unconsciously shaped by the way they experience authority at home. The names change, but the patterns remain. The child who learned that love must be earned often becomes the adult who believes peace must be earned. The child who learned that approval comes from outside themselves often becomes the adult who spends years seeking validation, certainty, answers, and fulfillment outside of themselves. The child who feared disappointing a parent often becomes the adult who fears disappointing others. This is one of the ways the cycle of duality continues. The belief that there is a me and what I need, a me and peace, a me and abundance, me and love, me and fulfillment, me and freedom, and even me and happiness. I hear people say, like, how could I be happier? How could I be more abundant? What do I need to do to make that happen? Not realizing that it's already a part of what they are. And over time, cultures became increasingly reliant on intermediaries, doctrines, authorities, identities, and conceptual knowledge. As attention moved outward about what should be attained, believed, earned, fixed, or feared, the simple recognition of awareness itself often became secondary. Direct knowing gave way to secondhand knowing. Sovereignty gave way to dualistic authority, and the search continued. From a non-dual perspective, the theology of separation is not limited to religion. It appears anywhere we believe that what we seek exists somewhere other than where we are, somewhere outside of ourselves. When the belief in separation is examined, something remarkable begins to reveal itself. The endless search can soften. The striving can relax. And what has always been present can be recognized more clearly. This isn't really a discussion about religion. It's a discussion about how separation gets learned. Some learned it through religion. Some learned it through parenting. Some learned it through school, through culture, through trauma. Some learned it through the self-improvement industry. The form varies, but the message is often the same. You are not enough. You are not enough yet. And from that single belief, the search begins. And sovereignty is what remains when the inherited stories of separation are seen clearly. The theology of separation teaches us to seek. Sovereignty teaches us to see. Seeking assumes something's missing. Seeing reveals what has never been absent. And perhaps the deepest question today isn't, what do I believe? But which of these beliefs were actually mine to begin with? That question alone can open the door to profound awareness, direct knowing, and remembrance. For some people, the belief in separation is reinforced not only through childhood conditioning and cultural beliefs, but also through their religious upbringing. Many traditions contain beautiful teachings about love, compassion, devotion, and service. Yet, depending on how those teachings were interpreted, some people may have learned that the divine exists out there while they exist down here. That distance becomes part of their identity. The seeker remains separate from what is sought. As a result, when they encounter non-dual teachings that suggest awareness, life, the divine, or ultimate reality is not separate from what they are, it can feel uncomfortable, confusing, or even become question of right or wrong. For some, it might feel arrogant. For others, it might feel dangerous. And for others still, it may feel blasphemous. Not because the idea has been carefully examined and rejected, but because the conditioning of separation runs so deeply that even questioning it can trigger fear, guilt, or resistance. If you've spent years believing that you are separate from the sacred, then the possibility that life is expressing itself as you can feel almost unimaginable. The mind immediately asks, how could that be true? Who do I think I am? Isn't that prideful? Isn't that blasphemous? Yet non-duality is not pointing to a separate personal self becoming special, superior, or divine. It's pointing beyond the personal self altogether. The wave is not claiming to be greater than the ocean. The wave is recognizing that it has never been separate from the ocean. This shift can be profound because it challenges one of the most deeply rooted assumptions in human experience, the belief that what we seek is somewhere else, someone else, or something other than what's here right now. From the perspective of awareness, the question is no longer, how do I get closer? But rather, what if separation was never the reality to begin with? This topic is not asking you to abandon your religious beliefs, reject your upbringing, or adopt a new philosophy. It's inviting you to become aware of the assumptions you inherited and to explore whether those assumptions are still serving you. This keeps the conversation rooted in sovereignty rather than ideology. Children inherit beliefs about life before they have the capacity to question them. Those beliefs become filters through which they experience love, worthiness, abundance, spirituality, and even the divine. Over time, those filters can create and reinforce the experience of separation, and then the search begins. Awareness reveals the search may have been built upon an assumption rather than a reality. Perhaps the greatest act of sovereignty is not choosing a new belief. It's becoming aware of the beliefs you inherited before you were old enough to choose. Not to fight them, not to judge them, not to replace them, simply to see them. Because what is seen clearly can stop unconsciously running your life. The theology of separation teaches us that peace, love, abundance, and fulfillment are somewhere else. Awareness gently asks, what if what you're looking for is the very thing that's looking? At this time, I'd like to share something personal with you. Because when I first encountered non-duality, it was difficult for me to accept. On the one hand, the teachings challenged much of what I had come to believe about life, spirituality, worthiness, and separation while I was walking my life's path. Yet on the other hand, there was something about the message that felt undeniably true. Something in me recognized it. So I stayed on the path, not because I understood it all, not because I agreed with everything I heard, but because something deeper kept whispering, pay attention. There were times when I struggled to even use the word God because the word didn't evoke feelings of love, peace, or connection. It didn't even bring up a kumbaya moment for me. Instead, it often brought up fear and anger. Fear born from religious dogma, fear of judgment, fear of punishment, fear of getting it wrong, and anger from a deep-seated belief that when I needed help the most, no one had been there for me. That belief created a profound sense of isolation. I felt alone, unsupported, and separate. Separate from love, separate from guidance, separate from life itself. It wasn't until much later that I realized the pain wasn't coming from separation. It was coming from the belief in separation. For much of my life, I didn't realize how deeply those beliefs had been woven into the fabric of my experience. Then one day, I uncovered a belief that had been quietly running beneath the surface for years. And that belief was that no matter what I did, punishment was imminent. Even when things were going well, even when I was happy, even when life felt expansive, part of me was waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting to be corrected, waiting to be judged, waiting to be shown why I was wrong, waiting to lose what I had gained, waiting for life to take something away. When I finally saw that pattern, I realized it wasn't just a belief about religion. It was a belief about life itself. It was one of the ways separation had taken root. There was a belief that life was watching me, evaluating me, keeping score, deciding whether I deserved peace, abundance, love, or happiness. Seeing that pattern didn't happen overnight, and it didn't disappear overnight, but awareness made it visible. And what becomes visible no longer has the power to unconsciously run our lives. Today, when I hear the word God, it no longer carries the same meaning it once did. The fear has softened, the distance has softened, the anger is non-existent, and the separation has softened. What remains is a growing recognition that love was never something to earn, worthiness was never something to prove, and peace was never being withheld. Perhaps that's what this journey has all been about. Not becoming something more, not fixing what was broken, not finding what was lost, but remembering what has been here all along. I secretly refer to it as my purple path, and it's exciting that you are choosing to walk this path beside me. I thank you for being here and attracting this video to you. Come back to what's real again and again until it becomes how you live. Awareness, non-duality, emotional freedom, unity consciousness. Life is an energy game. When you understand how it works, miracles become a way of life. Join us inside the dojo for deeper conversation, reflection, and expansion. There's a reason you attracted this video. If you feel the pull, please consider joining us live. And in the meantime, what was revealed for you? What about this topic has shifted something within you that would really be worthwhile, I invite you to let go. Well, there's really no holding on to, but allow it to be revealed. That's a really wonderful way to say it, isn't it? And ask yourself, like, am I walking as the sovereign being on my path? Or am I choosing the path of duality? And the choice is always yours, always. And if you want any kind of support with this, visit me at masteringyourbeliefs.com. In the meantime, this is Nancy Muller, the one and only Life Sensei, saying ciao for now.